Okay, so this is another entry in my stuff I own, and what we have here is Batman from The Batman, the 2022 film. Um, I'm going to go through the film real quick and then get on to the figure. I would say that the film has a lot going for it: great casting, acting, music, dialogue, and cinematography. Where I don't think it shines is on the action, in particular the closing climax. I thought was not great, and it should be kind of the high point of the film. The biggest problem with the film, though, I would say, is the plot. And the plot, because of the plot, I would put this film below any of the Christopher Nolan Batman films, the three films in that trilogy. The problem for me is the fact that the Riddler is shown to be far more effective than Batman at battling crime because he's the one that connects all the dots. In fact, the Batman is being basically led around by the nose by the Riddler. And so I think that near the end of the film, or at some point in the writing process, the writer or writers, it dawned on them that we kind of made the Riddler the hero. So out of the blue, he suddenly gets it in his head to drown Gotham City, and that seems out of character because he's basically going through and killing off the highest ranking, or not necessarily the highest ranking, although in the mob, but people who are involved in the corruption in Gotham City. And if one says, well, yeah, but Batman doesn't kill people, so the Riddler is bad. And I would first of all say, well, there's that first action scene with Batman where he's beating the hell out of some just like street thugs, um, to the point where I would say he probably did some permanent damage to some of these people, probably a bunch of concussions. But the bigger one was in the scene with the Penguin, where he's in the car tracking him down or trying to run him off the road. I don't know how many people died in that explosion in there, but I would assume probably dozens, which is why cops don't do what the Batman did, which is through a busy street, a busy highway, try to run this guy off the road. So he may not have murdered people, but he caused a lot of deaths. So at that point, and the other problem I would say is that the Batman, although I like the fact that he used a lot of detective skills in this, he's rather ineffectual. Basically the Riddler is doing whatever he wants to do. Even when he's caught, it's because he inexplicably wants to be caught. And I don't even understand what the point of that was. Even at the climax, when the Riddler plans on um, flooding Gotham, he's entirely successful. And it's kind of funny that at the end of the film, the Riddler is furious that he failed. And I'm like, failed at what? I mean, he didn't manage to kill the mayor, but he pretty much was successful in everything else he tried to do. So that's basically my problem with the film. But overall, it's a very watchable film. I would put it definitely high up in the DCEU films, which may not be saying a lot, but it's very watchable. Unlike films like the first Suicide Squad or Birds of Prey or the Justice League, quite frankly. So let's get down to the figure. The figure, like the film, has some good points and some problems, and so I would put this figure well below average of my Mezco figures. First of all, because of the cape, I like the material of the cape. It's a heavier material, but it bunches up here and it gives him like he has no neck. So it's practically up to his ears, and so I think it gives it an odd look. I like the fact that it's kind of like armor on here, and you could see that this shoulder armor is a separate piece, and this plating here on the front. These are all plastic, so it's got nice detailing in here. You can see all the detailing, and Mezco is very good at making these very film accurate. His, yeah, I'm not sure about why these are so, his little spikes here are so far in. But we have a lot of different materials on this. Again, we have some, I guess it would be like soft plating here in the front on the figure, and then we've got some. It looks like stitching. It's not real stitching, but it's pretty cool. So it looks a little awkward, I would say, just kind of squared off, but then also with the neck, we could kind of, if I did this, but it won't, if I maybe hung some weights off of it. I think the expression is accurate to the film, and we have a lot of different items that can go on there. And we have the uneven stitching, which I had mentioned before, which is, I think, is probably because somebody hand stitched it after a human being put the costume on. That's my guess. But also, one of the major weird things about this is the knees. Why do they do that? Why do they bend in that way? That's not normal for Mezco figures. I guess we can kind of bring it together. But it has a very awkward feel to it. And I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm saying that for a figure that probably runs about $100, I think it could be better. And particularly given the other figures that Mezco has created. They set a high standard. And so I just don't think this particular figure lives up to that standard. It is a superior figure. It is a very high quality figure. It is a very detailed figure. But for a Mezco figure, I think it's not up to their usual standards. So that is another figure from Mezco and another Batman, which I own a ridiculous amount of. So I don't. I have what's called FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, which means they go, oh, it's a great. I mean, they've created a ridiculous amount of Batman figures. So I see a Batman figure, I'm like, oh, got to get that too. Even though I'm not at all the world's biggest Batman fan, I keep getting them. I think I'm going to need to slow down. Anyway, that's the Batman from the Batman.